What's up, everyone? Blanson here. Welcome back to the channel. The dust has settled on what was an amazing weekend. I have recovered and refreshed, and I'm ready to bring you the breakdown of my OCE Nationals run. I'm not 100% happy with how I went, but it could have been worse. Let's jump into it, and we'll go through the event details and how I went and the matchups, and we'll talk about what's next. So, One Piece Oceania National Championship 25 to 26. It was hosted by Attack Games. They did an amazing job hosting. The main event, everything went really smoothly. You know, you hear some horror stories overseas about, long lines to check in and crazy delays and all this stuff, but there was no delays. It was pretty much running on time, and considering how big the event it was, everything was pretty smooth. Pretty smooth. It was at Marvel Stadium in Melbourne, which is a stadium used for sport mainly. But this venue is just so good compared to venues we've had in the past. It's modern, it's clean, it's comfortable. It was a almost 40-degree day, but it was freezing inside. The air conditioning worked perfectly. It's just a really nice venue to play in. The quality food stand, just a really great venue. Hopefully they keep doing it there every year. It was 1,060 players, the biggest One Piece event Australia has had. Last year was in the 900s, so we beat it again, and yeah, crazy biggest event I've ever played in, and you could tell by just how packed it was. 10 Swiss rounds, could have been 11, but the pair down eventually lost and kept it to 10, and the top cut was 32 players. So my results, I placed 171st with 7 wins and 3 losses. How do I feel about that? The 171st looks a bit average. I was hoping to do better. The 7 wins and 3 losses looks okay, but my tiebreakers were pretty pathetic. So that's what put me so far down. To put it in perspective, there were some X3s that were making top 64. So it really just depends on how your opponents go and when your losses come. If you lose to people early and then they maybe go on to drop or don't do so well themselves, that really messes you up. But the placement, I would have liked to at least get into top 128 just to get a couple more event packs. But yeah, bad breakers. But look, the win-loss ratio, not too bad. Not too bad. Looks okay on paper. This is the deck list I ran. I ended up going with for the people that are watching the Imu sit videos, I know there'll be people watching that didn't watch those, but just quickly to cover the deck list, I went with the 2 equilibriums. They were fine. I used them a lot. Didn't really notice too many. Like Garp event would have been fine as well, but yeah, they both did. They both would have been just as good as each other. The Charlos I really liked. The Charlos is basically another copy of Equilibrium, or never existed, but if early game it just blocks a 7k or an 8k, 9k swing, and it also mills your deck one. So no complaints about the Charlos. Deck was great. Everything, nothing, no problems with the deck list. Let's move on. So these are my matchups for the day. This is my spread. I had 3 Mihawks, 2 Yellow Luffys, 2 Aces, Red Blue Ace, 1 Doffy, 1 Croc, and 1 Boa. Pretty much what I expected going into it. I knew there was going to be a lot of Mihawk. Even it was funny. I was going when I rocked up to check in, and you're chatting to all the good players you've met over the journey, and you're saying, "Oh, what are you playing today?" Mihawk. Oh, what are you playing today? Mihawk. What are you playing today? Mihawk. A lot of good players were on Mihawk. Mihawk was clearly the deck to beat. That was the pick. The finals was a Mihawk mirror, I believe. Sorry if I'm wrong there, but I know third place was Mihawk, second place was Mihawk. Like, just a lot of Mihawk. And yeah, I want. You'll see how I went into the Mihawks, but yeah, what I expected that. Luffy, yeah, literally, this is pretty much what I expected. And it's nice to know that, if you're prepared for these, nothing would have really caught you off guard. All right, let's jump into the rounds. So I'm just going to be looking down at my phone here a bit because I've got round by round just written up a bit of stuff as I was going in the event. So round 1 was Yellow Luffy, and this was probably my easiest match of the day. No offense to the guy I was playing. He was a perfectly solid player, but it was just cruisy. I won dice roll and went second. I hit all the cards I needed to hit. I had all the elders ready to go. I had multiple copies of 10 drop ready to go. And yeah, I starved him. And he didn't play any bonnies on me. And yeah, it was just a cruisy game. It started elders looping and it was just GG. So not much to really say about this game. I was sitting there after round 1 thinking, good, I've got round 1 win out of the way. And, if I verse more yellow Luffys, give me all the yellow Luffys. If I verse them all day, I would have been happy because it's just a simple matchup. We can deal with triggers as they come out, whether it's Robin or Sanji or, Perona if they're playing the zombie package. We can deal with the triggers with Mars, and then we can swing into bodies. Bonnie's only a 10k, so we can minus her down to 6, or Kid's only a 9k, so we can minus him down to 5 and swing into it with Nosturo. It's easy to clear their board. It's easy to start getting through the life. And yeah, pretty simple. Let's move on. So round 1 was a win. Then round 2, you really do want to go back-to-back wins just to set up the day. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I ran headfirst into a boa. I lost the dice roll. I had to go first. He was a competent player. I stuck to my strategy, which was to starve. I starved him, and then after Akuma, and then after me sort of swinging into Akuma to try and keep the board clear, he had 7 life by the time I was playing, like I was doing my Elders loop and I could start swinging. But, I still, even though through all the life and, his first 4 triggers were Gorgon Sisters, Ran, Shakuyaka, like 4 triggers in a row. I got through all of that. He got me down to 0, and I had him on probably 3 life, I'd like to say. Then, I'd set up for I'd got 4 events in hand. I'd set up for the 20k unblockable. He went for it. I dropped the 4 events. He tapped out, and then he had like 4 cards in hand. And then I had to go for game. I think I had 4 swings. So he had 3 life. I had 4 swings. I swung 8, and then he double 2K'd. And then sadly, I didn't have an Osturo in hand to get another swing out. I think if I had an Osturo, maybe would have been close. He might have got it by like 1k because he had a slave arrow in trigger to like draw 2 trash chew to cycle some bricks out. It would have been close if I had an Osturo, but if I didn't have an Osturo, as soon as he counted that first swing, it was over. But, I think considering I went first and with all the triggers, like I played it okay. Like, I couldn't have done much more. And that's sometimes those losses happen, and that's fine. And, you can take 1 loss. It's still early. It's only 1-1. You've got 8 rounds to go. Plenty of time to bounce back. But, yeah, so I wasn't salty or anything. Just took it on the chin and just thought, yeah, that's the way it goes. And on to the next round. This was the one that I shouldn't, like, this is the round you can't afford to lose. It was against Purple Doffy. I lost the dice roll again and went first. And Yeah, I don't know. Oh, the dice roll was annoying because I rolled 8, he rolled an 8. I rolled an 8 again, he rolled an 8 again. And then I think I rolled like a 4 and he won the roll. So like getting two relatively high rolls and then not winning the dice, it's kind of that was a little bit annoying, but that I thought just it was just funny but annoying. Uh, I think this one was just down to I just don't know how to play against Doffy. I, if you were watching the Imu series, he never came up when I was playing ranked. He never came up, and I barely got to play against it. And I barely really know what I'm supposed to be doing. I didn't have a game plan. And, look, even if I did have a game plan, that guy maybe he just played it really well. Like he went, he ramped, he played 8-cost Doffy with a Monet, and then another 8-cost Doffy with a Virgo, and then once I started playing Elders, he played 10 drop, and then he played 10 drop again. Like, I was sort of sitting there and was like, what am I really supposed to do? It felt like an unwinnable game. But I do think though that if I had I needed to have a game plan from the start, because there's little crossroads where it's like, okay, he puts down a Monet. Can I afford to KO that? Is it more beneficial to KO the Monet and remove the board and give him the draw 2, trash 1 and the ramp? Or is it better to leave it on the board and not give him the ramp and not give him the cycle? Things like that. Is it better to, if he's got a Dallinger on field, should I just not swing at all so he doesn't get to search? Just little things like that. I just didn't have a solid game plan. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I went into it a bit blind and got a loss for it. So yeah, it was a bit upsetting, but that's fine. I just didn't play enough Doffy, so I can't complain too much. So yeah, 1-2 at this point. Oh, you're like, geez, there's a long day left, but my chances of topping have basically almost reduced to 0 with 2 early losses. But you got to keep going. Round 4 was a Mihawk. I was really determined to win this one. But when I saw the Mihawk, I was a little bit scared. Even though I knew, I got a game plan against Mihawk, but you're still kind of like, oh, geez, this is my bad matchup. Luckily, I won the roll and went second. And for those of you who haven't watched my Imu series, I had, my game plan into Mihawk was on 6 Don, play Nosturo. You protect on 7 Don, they play Shanks. They swing into the Nosturo. You dump your hand to protect it. And then on your 8 Don turn, you minus the Shanks by 2k and then attach 8 Don in your leader and swing 13 into the 7. And they have to give up 4 cards out of hand. Oh, sorry, you starve them before that as well, so they don't get any life. And then they have to dump 4 cards to save the Shanks, and most of the time the Shanks will go down. And that's what I did. Swung 13k into the Shanks, and he said, oh, you know what? You can have it. And once the Shanks was gone, it was, you can control the game from there because they can't rest your stuff. When they can't rest your bodies, they can't play Lauren Beppo. You get to set the pace of the game because you control when you let your bodies be rested. So then they can't play Lauren Beppo. And then once they can't get to, or they can play Lauren Beppo, but they can't get to a 7k leader. And once they're not a 7k leader, and they don't have the attacking pressure of Shanks and the minus 1k, you're swinging 7s. It's so much easier to win. But yeah, it was clean. I did what I was supposed to do and won the round. And I'm like, okay, look, we're almost sort of like we're getting towards halfway through the day. I was 2-2. You just have to stay positive and just try and win the rest. 8-2 is a very respectable score. Even if you might not be playing top cut, you're still probably making top 64, getting a top players pack. You're not. That's never a bad result. So I just had to keep playing it and keep positive. But yeah, 2-2. It was not the end of the world. So this was. Then we went into this round 4 was the round before lunch break. They gave us something like 30 minutes for lunch. I just wanted to put this little lunch break section in because by the time I finished my game and got in the food line, I had like 25 minutes left of break. And then there was a big line, and it took me, luckily, it only took me about 10 minutes to get through the line. But if it took any more, so I had 15 minutes to eat. But just say that went down to, if the line took any longer, like 15, 20 minutes, and I only had like 5 minutes to eat, you might not even be able to get much food. You got to get something tiny just to like smash down quickly before the next round starts. So like one of the best, if you're a new player and you go into an event for the first time, make sure you take note when the lunch break is and play that round before lunch as quick as possible. Wrap it up, pack up your stuff. Don't talk to anyone. Don't go to the toilet. Just go and get your food so you can eat it and then be full. Because if you're hungry, the rounds keep going. Most rounds go to time. You only get like 5 minutes in between rounds. So, before you know it, you're like, it's late in the day and you've had no food and your brain starts giving out on you. So make sure you play the round before as fast as possible. Get it done so you can eat. Yeah. So after I was sitting lunch, having my lunch, I'm thinking, 2-2. And look, a couple of my mates were 2-2, and I was kind of staying upbeat. I'm like, it was sad, but I was like, it's all right. Like you keep winning, it's fine. But I knew if I got one more loss, I was pretty cooked. And then sadly, that loss came in round 5. So I had to play Mihawk again. I sat down, or I checked who I was playing against, and I saw a guy that I know from locals. And I knew, damn, he's a pretty good player. I'm like, what's he doing at 2-2? He must have got a bit unlucky with some matchups. And he got in my head before the game even started. It was in my head because I'm like, this guy's decent. And I'm like, maybe, I haven't played that many really good Mihawk players. And I'm like, maybe my strategy is not going to work. Maybe like, and I started to doubt myself before I lost the game before I even started, and I'm a bit sad about it. So one thing I missed on my phone here after the round 4, all my losses, all my wins, my win losses were dependent on dice roll. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, don't tell me it's going to be a day where the dice roll depends, the dice roll determines the outcome. But then this game put a pin in that idea because I won roll and went second and then lost. So, yeah, I was so annoyed at myself for this game. For some reason, for some unknown reason, I don't know why, I did not stick to my game plan. I won the roll, I went second, but I did not play Nosturo on 6. Instead, I played Mars and removed his Bonnie. Because usually I'm used to, they'll play Toshigi on 5, and then, having a ground death Mars combo is pretty rare, so usually you can't play Mars. So usually you don't have anything to do. Like Mars is never in the equation. But then this time he played Bonnie instead of Mars and just froze one of my Don. He played Bonnie instead of Toshigi and froze one of my Don. And I was looking at my hand, I'm like, I have Mars. I can KO this thing for 3 Don and then, clear his board. And then that's what I did. And then I'm like, I'll clear the Bonnie. And then instead of starving, I'm like, I'll start poking 5s. And, like I've learnt in the past, I swing 5, he takes. I swing another 5, he takes. They're all good Mihawk players will happily go down to 1 or 2 life because they know they run a ton of counter and they can't die. And then, you try and, so when as soon as you play that Mars and you clear that body, you sort of try and have to play, you're playing this more aggressive route. And it just didn't work. I played Mars on 6. He played the Shanks and I couldn't remove the Shanks and I lost from there. And I was just like, why did I go against my game plan? Because, my aggression, I was trying to keep, I knew I had to keep my foot on. Once I'd made that decision, I'm like, okay, keep the foot on the gas, keep pressuring life, swing, swing, swing. Don't worry about bodies, ignore the board, just swing at life, 6K, 6K, 6K. He went down to 0 life. And then I had to like go for game with like a 9K swing, and then he just counted out. I'm like, oh, how much more counter did you have? He's like, oh, heaps. He had like 2 more tricholicisms, which is the plus 4K event, and then a dead bands as well. And he had the Don open to use them. So it was just stupid. Like it was almost like obviously going into the event. So I had my game plan for Mihawk, but it was obviously like 90% I knew that that's what I should be doing. There was like that small 10% doubt in my mind of like, is this actually the best way to play it? Because I'd made it up on my own. Like I hadn't seen, no one else told me to play it that way. That's how I decided to play it. And then because I came up against a good Mihawk, I'm like, oh, maybe it's not going to work. And there was just that element of doubt, which made me go like not believe in myself and the game plan that I created, and it backfired. It like as soon as if he had all these events in hand, then he taps out and I go 13K in the shanks, he would have gone. He would have let it go. And then that puts me in so much better position than just clearing Bonnie. And then I've got a Bonnie to deal with and not a shanks that can rest my stuff and minus 1K everything. It's just I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I did it. So not only did I throw this game, I kind of threw the day with that small decision. And then after that, I was just like, it was almost just like that moment was the exact thing that I needed. That was like my game plan works, or like that's what I should be doing. And sadly, I had to learn that the hard way in the middle of nationals. But yeah, so that's where kind of a lack of reps comes in. Didn't play enough. Didn't play the matchup enough to know. You got like to be successful. You have to put in so much work, and maybe my amount of practice was a little bit lacking. But we'll get into that later. But yeah, really annoying. Really annoying. 2-3. Day was over. I think I rang my wife at this point and just said, yeah, I just got another loss. I'm really annoyed. Didn't do what I was supposed to do. And then she just told me, oh, you just got to play it out. And like, I knew I had to play it out. Like, the pricing for top 512 and top 256, like you get more event packs, and like the event packs are going for like $100 each. So like, going like the more you win, you're adding like you're getting significant more pricing. So like I knew I didn't want to give up. I knew I wanted to play it out, obviously, for you guys, and yeah, there was no way I was giving up. But I was just a bit disappointed because I wasn't topping, and I was kind of just like disappointed. I'm like maybe started thinking like maybe I'm not as good of a player as I thought. But yeah, I was determined to play it out. Just had a lot of doubts and a lot of a lot of sort of just dark thoughts creeping in. But then round 6 came along. And this was ace. And I have to shout out Aaron because I'd sat down, I was set up, I was a bit flat. And then he came and sat down. And I've met him before. We've played locals together. Really chill guy. Thank you, Aaron, because I think this round was the turning point for my day. Just playing someone that I know just really puts you at ease. You get to have fun. You have a laugh. And then not only do I know him, but also he was telling me that he watched the whole Ace series. And it just filled me with so much pride. I'm versing a guy that's playing Ace, and he'd watched my Ace series, like, you're thinking like, oh, well, maybe, he might have actually like learned something. And it kind of ignited a bit of a fire in me as well, because so I lost the dice roll and I was going first. And I'm like, damn, okay. But instead of kind of thinking, usually with Ace, like going into the day, I'm like, if I lose dice roll against Ace, I'm cooked. But when I lost this one, I'm like, you know what? This guy, he's watched me on YouTube. Like he's trying, like he thinks that he thinks that I know what I'm talking about. So let's prove that I do know what I'm talking about, and let's put on a show for him. Like I wanted to play it as best as I could, and like I was determined to kind of win and just show like, yeah, like I know what I'm doing. And yeah, look, it maybe so. The game went back and forth as usual. I was playing as good as I can. And then sadly on 8 Dawn, he whiffed the Newgate combo. And then that's sort of all I needed to take control of the game from there. If he didn't whiff that combo, probably would have been a much different story, and I probably would have lost. But yeah, sometimes that's all you need. But on my side, I played it as good as possible, didn't make any mistakes, and got the win. But yeah, thank you, Aaron. That was a great game, and hope the rest of the day went all right for you. But this round really helped me just get back on a nice, good headspace. And 3-3. I was like, all right, let's just see. Let's just play the rest out. Into round 7, and this slide probably looks a lot like the last one, but yeah, it was a pretty similar game. I ran into another ace, and I lost roll, and I went first. And I was like, geez, I'm just trying to get back into it. I lose dice roll against ace. The guy was like super happy because he's like, yes, just like I can, because he knew that if he lost dice roll, he was probably done. And then once he won one dice roll, he's like, oh, sweet, now like I can win. But sadly for him, I was locked in for this game. My energy drink that I had at lunch was kicking in, and I played it so well. Or I was clean. And I was talking to in my Imu series about how I haven't played against much ace, but I was hoping that going into the day, all of the times that I played Imu as the ace player, I'm hoping all that knowledge comes back to me, but on the other side. And like when I'm playing the Imu, hopefully all that experience I had from playing ace, I'm going to, hopefully I can utilize that when the time comes. And I did. I picked a perfect opportunity to play a Shirahoshi. He had to swing, he ended up swinging a Newgate swing into it and rested his blocker to kill the Shirahoshi. And it was just but yeah, anyway, jumping ahead. So I was a little bit flat. But then on 4 Don, he played an Izzo. And then as soon as I saw that Izzo come down, I was just like, all right, that's it. I'm winning this game. I'm not going to lose. He doesn't have, he's missed Marco. And I just thought that's all I need. That's the only little chink in the armor that I need to get through. And yeah, and I got the win. Yeah, he maybe didn't play it as optimally as he could have. Kind of, didn't was a little bit liberal with his Newgate swings, but it's still ace, and he still played 3 Newgates, and he hit his 8 Don combo. I still had to work hard for the win, but I played it super clean and got the win. So finally, positive win ratio, 4-3. I'm like, and ever since, I'll just say something now, just spoiler, but ever since I was sitting there thinking that the dice roll was going to determine the day, let me just double check this fact, but yeah, every single dice roll after my third loss, I lost the dice. Every single one, I lost the dice roll. And you'll see that it didn't matter. Round 8 was a Luffy. Really nice guy. Daniel, shout out to you. I lost roll. I went first. He played it really well. He went, I starved. Starved, set up elders. He played back-to-back Bonnies to put me to 0. And I knew I was really panicking because I knew that, I had the game in control, but the problem was in the first few turns, on the way to the Elder's turn, I milled 3 ground death and 2 never existed into the trash because I had to search other things or, it was mainly ground deaths early. I'd put all 4 ground deaths into my trash through searching early. And then I had to use a couple of never existeds just to survive on the turns after. And then I knew that once he got me to 0, I had to survive a 14k unblockable. And I knew that once you do that, then you just win from there. But I was just I don't know if I have enough events left to survive it. And then luckily I just got really lucky top decking or, drawing from when I cycled leader ability and searched, I was accumulated a couple of 2Ks. I got my last Never Existed in the deck, and then he swung the 14k unblockable. Oh, all right, that's right. So the story was, so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I can't remember if the Luffy unblockable event, if it gives plus 1k to leader and it's 15k swing, or is it you pay one Don and you don't get it back and it's 14k. I'm like, if it's 14k, I can survive. If it's 15k and the event gives plus 1k, I was done. I was over because I could go. I was like, Never Existed, 2k, 2k, 1k, 1k. I could go to 15, and I'm like, please just don't let that card give any plus power. Please just let it be 14, and it ended up being 14, and I dumped my whole hand, and then killed him after that. I think I won. He triggered two Usops off the last 2 life, so he went to 9k leader, and I just had enough Don to go 9, get his last card out, and then 9 again. Super close game, but a little bit lucky, but I still played it as good as I can. Just had some bad mill. If I had better mills and then stacked up a few more events, it would have been easy. Because all you have to do sometimes with Imu, if you've got events in your hand, you just win the game because you can survive anything. Boa was a little bit different because I had to burn them all and then couldn't break through after. But a lot of matchups, if you can survive like 2 or 3 turns just based on how many events you've got, you're probably just gonna win. Well, that's how it felt sometimes throughout the day. But yeah, 5-3. I'm like, okay, this is turning around a little bit. Not too bad. I'm like, if I can just keep it going, it's respectable. On to round 9. So round 9 was a black croc, and I'm like, oh, geez, this guy's 5-3. He's playing playing a sort of roguish deck. Like, he must be a really good player, and I was kind of like, I was a little bit scared because I thought this guy definitely knows what he's doing, and he definitely he gave off the aura that he was prepared for the Imu matchup, even though he knew it was going to be hard. But he seemed prepared, and once I lost the dice roll and went first, he was like really excited, and I was sitting there going like, okay, I was locked in at this point. Like, I was, I'd shaken off all the demons. I was playing really good One Piece. I'm like, like, I don't deserve to be at these, where I am. I'm just gonna win the game. And I'm like, okay, so he's gonna play Bon Clay and he's gonna leave it there, and then I have to make sure, he's gonna poke me with him. But then, yeah, the game sort of played out, and he wasn't leaving the Bon Clays on the board. He was always sacking them off on his turn to play down like a 5-drop. Look, like, no offense to this guy whatsoever. Maybe he was playing it right, but it just felt, compared to one game on like the first Imu grind video that I played against a croc, and he destroyed me. And he did it by constantly looping the Bon Clays. So he would play one, leave it there. I can't KO. I don't necessarily want to KO it. And then, and then the next turn he would swing with it, pop that one, bring out Daz Bones, and then he'd play another Miss All Sunday, and then just leave that Bon Clay there. So he'd always have like one Bon Clay on the field to like poke me with, and then get rid of on his turn. And like, this guy he wasn't leaving the Bon Clays on board. I don't know. That's where I feel like maybe it's still a very hard matchup for Croc. Don't get me wrong. Like, once I was started to loop Elders, it was just kind of over. I accumulated events. I was prepared for any sort of like ground death shenanigans. But yeah, I was really bricked up though. He got me down to 0, and I was panicking a little bit, but it just wasn't. Yeah, it was, once the Elders loop started, it was a little bit too strong. This is one of those matchups as well where you start feeling guilty for playing, Imu as well, because this guy, he was pretty upset that like Imu like does what it does, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty dumb, and you're trying to sort of say like, yeah, but what can you do? But yeah, so won that one, 6-3. I knew there was another 1 or 2 rounds left, more than likely one, but I was happy to get that one out the way, and then on to the last round. And last round was another Mihawk, And when I sat down, I saw him reveal Mihawk. I'm like, there is no way that I'm not setting up Nosturo. Like, I'm doing it. I lost the roll again, and I went first. Literally, I lost dice rolls. So on this little 5-win streak that I had, 1, 2, 3, yeah, on this little 5-win streak, I lost every dice roll and went first every time. But stuck to my strategy, put down the Nosturo, and then for the first time, something happened which I had theorized might happen, but it never actually happened in practice. And that was the guy played the Shanks on 8 and he left it active. In my head, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do this starve strategy. I'm going to set up Nosturo. I'm like, what if they leave the Shanks active? And, in response to that theory, I'm like, okay, well, I should just be able to just swing then. And then, like, starve him to a point, and then if he leaves the Shanks active and doesn't just basically plays 9k vanilla for the turn, then I'm just going to swing and put pressure on his life. And that's what I did. So, I stuck to my strategy to a certain point. He left the Shanks active, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to leave that active, my guys have got full 7k power. I'm going to utilize that, and I'm going to hit you hard, play Jupiter, hit your life hard. And I did that, and then I was on 3 life at that point. And then once I started really pressuring him with the 7k swings, it almost forced him to swing at my bodies because it really just changed the tempo of the game. Because he played the Shanks, did nothing, and then on his Tendon turn, I think he still played Lauren Beppo, but like because I was like, I had like a big board, and he would put him down to like 2. He sort of had no choice but just to swing at my bodies instead. Whereas usually they might if I'm not pressuring them much, they'll just swing at my face and just freeze my guys instead. They don't have to clear him. But he felt pressured into clearing my board, and then I basically. It went a bit back and forth there. I didn't clear the Shanks, so it wasn't like an auto win, or in the past where, in other games where I clear the Shanks and then you just kind of control the game. I wasn't in full control, but I was ahead on life all the time. Like I would play bodies, pressure him, and then my life never got touched. And the game went on, and then time came, and then I could sort of play it like not sort of do anything dodgy, but I knew I could keep putting pressure on to the point where as soon as he started swinging at my life, I would kill him on the clapback. And if he didn't swing on my life, even though I might not be able to kill him, I would be able to win on time because I'm ahead. And that's what happened. We went all the way through extra time, and I won 2 life to 1. But it was a really good game. I played it really well. Like from round sort of 6 to 10, I was super locked in, barely made any mistakes. I was making good decisions with my searches and, what I was putting down on the board and how I was using my events. And, yeah, played really well and kind of just gave myself that feeling of just, again, like, yeah, like I can do this, I really felt like on that last game, even though I'm going for, even though this guy was 6'3", it really felt like I should have been, like the way I was playing, I could have matched it with the big dogs, that were like on the top tables. Like I felt good. I was playing good. And it's just a shame the early part didn't go the way I wanted it to go, because the way I felt in that last round, I really felt like I could have matched it with like with anyone in there. And so yeah, that was a nice feeling to have. That was a really nice feeling to have. It was just a reminder of like you can do this. You are a good player. It was just a matter of just like not having as much reps. But anyway, we'll talk about that after. So that was the day. I won out the rest after the 2-3, pulled it back, went X3, got my top 256 extra event packs. So I ended up with like 8 of them. And yeah, it was, apart from my participation having literally like nothing but rares, I was pretty happy. I was pretty happy. A lot of my mates went X3 as well. And it's always a nice feeling when you go same as your mates, or guys that you see as your equals. Sometimes when you see, when you see people as your equal and they're doing a lot better than you, it's not a great feeling. But yeah, we all sort of a lot of us had a pretty similar result, and that was really nice. And I knew I was only probably just a little bit of Doffy experience, or just that, if I had less doubt about Mihawk, just 1 or 2 games away from being up there. So yeah, that was my day. That was my day. I just want to talk a little bit. So, was Imu the right pick for my deck? I went through, a lot of people came up to me saying how they watched my deck picking video, and that it was, like a lot of fun, like with the bait and switch with Imu. And yeah, Imu was definitely the right pick. Definitely the right pick. It was really fun. It was really consistent. And if you remember from the deck picking video, how I was talking about the tactileness of a deck, well, that was 100% accurate. When you like being able to like play a searcher, and then you do that little like flicking off the top of your deck. So like you play your event, and then you like go 1, 2, 3, you flick them off onto the table. You don't like sort of like pick them up. You can like flick them off, flip them face up. It's just so much little things to do, and little, like you're like lots, because you're going wide, you're swinging so much, and there's lots to tap and touch. And yeah, I had really fun. I had a lot of fun. And then there was also, it's also really grindy, and you can sort of like, I like decks where you can get a position where you kind of slowly like stranglehold your opponent. Like perfect deck, perfect choice. It's definitely something up my alley. I loved it. I just really annoyed that I didn't play this for the OP13 as well, because then all of the practice that I would have put in 13 would have transferred over to the weekend. I would have been so much more experienced in Imu, and that could have been the difference, but it's fine. I ended up making the right choice. I walked away from the event thinking that was the right pick. And compared to how I felt after I played Ace, after I played Ace, I had so many doubts about whether it was the deck for me. And after this event, I had none. No doubts. I played the right deck for sure. Yeah, like being able to just set up those boards with the blockers and the counter events, and you just feel in so much control. And you're able to just put the game in a state where you can slowly calculate everything that your opponent can do, and like, okay, so if he rests this blocker and swings this and this, yep, I've got enough counter. If he does this, and if he like rests both blockers and then uses that amount of Don and swings these numbers, and you're like, yep, I can counter out of that. Or if he swings unblockable, yep, you can counter out of that. There's like, burns this life, and like there's just you can just take full control of the game, and then all you have to do is just sort of just analyze what your opponent wants to do, or all of their options available to them, and you just slowly tick them off. Like, yep, I can stop that, I can stop that, I can stop that, and I can stop that. Perfect choice, great deck. The only problem with Imu is that you just get a lot of hate. You get a lot of people who like walk away from that game going like, you're playing a BS deck, like should be banned, like can't wait for Imu to be banned. It's so unfair, it does so much. And like, yeah, that's true. I know, but like Imu didn't win the day. Well, I don't know what Cyrus was playing. I think he was playing Mihawk. A lot of those guys were on Mihawk. But yeah, like, maybe it was Imu. Maybe it was Imu. Maybe Imu did win the day. Imu did take 12 spots out of it was the most represented deck in Top Card. But it still it can easily lose to Boa and Mihawk. So, it's not like Imu's not, and also Ace if you lose roll. So like it doesn't, yes, it's broken, but it's not tier 0. So, like I felt bad, but you can't feel too bad because, there is a lot of counter out there. And like, but yeah, I don't like, you're trying to, because you end up having to be really charismatic and trying to talk to your opponent and like, asking them questions about how is the day going, or like, what are you into? Or like, how are you finding your deck and all this and that, because you don't want them to just like hate you, you're just trying to be as pleasant as possible, so then they walk away not like too upset that they've just been absolutely cheesed by the elders like 4 turns in a row. So yeah, perfect deck choice. Next question is, how do I improve? How do I take, so this is 2 nats now, where I finished in that 100 and something range. X3, I went X3 last year as well. I was X2 going into the last round, and then it's almost like if I could combine the two events, because last nationals, got to the last round and my brain just let me down. Like I made some of the biggest mistakes ever. Like I was playing Blue Doffy, and I would play out my turns and leave one Don open to like activate Teach ability, but then I didn't have Teach on the board. It was in my hand, and I should at the start of the turn I would have mapped out, okay, pay 2 for Teach and do this, but then I forgot that I had to pay 2 for Teach, use the 2 Don for something else, and then have no Don left to use it. And I did that like 2 times in the last round, going X2, playing for top 64. Like my brain just exploding. Whereas in this event, like in round 10, I was not making a mistake. Like I was so switched on, so locked in. And yeah, it was kind of the opposite last Nats. Except my losses, so my loss came late last Nats, but my losses came early this time. But I think part of it is because of this channel, and then because of all the analytics, or like it's the channel and commentating has forced me to be more analytical, and it's really improved the way that I am able to think in the middle of a game. Like I can think more, I can use my brain more. I don't just autopilot into my plays, and so yeah, without getting too jumbled up, last year I got to X3 based on just playing, just repetitions, just playing so much. And then this year I got to X3 not by playing that much. I played nowhere near as much as I did last year, but it was, as I said, it was starting this channel, and it was forcing my brain to be more present while I'm playing. And you commentate so many games and you talk so much about your players and you're so analytical while you're filming that you get into a real life game, and it's like I've just got you guys there just sort of like, oh yep, so I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and think, and you actually think more. I'm forcing my brain to think more and act less on instinct. So whereas last Nats I would just revolved, I relied on pure instinct, and then I played probably like 5 times as more games, but wasn't as analytical. So if you could just sort of merge those 2 nationals, and like I'll just skip to this next slide. So if I could just if I had played more this for this Nats, I would have done a lot better. So combine the amount that I played last year with how I've trained my brain to think from this year. Yes, I think I just said that right. Then it'd be the perfect combo. And then that's where, so yeah, how do I improve? Just need to play more. Play more, play more, play more. More reps, more reps, more reps. And then not only do I need to play more, but I also need to make sure, so in my modern life, I don't get that much time to just grind sim nonstop for hours every day, right? I want to film, I want to edit after I film, then I also have to balance work and family and everything. So that's where I need to make sure that I'm picking decks that span across like multiple formats, so that slowly as I build up the reps over a course of a month, like I'm not going to be able to like just cram everything in space for 2 weeks like I tried to this time. I need to build it up over multiple months and then use that experience like built up all together. And then that's where I'm just a little bit upset, because the 3 months that I spent playing Ace and thinking about Ace and playing and putting all the reps into Ace, if that was Imu instead, then we might have got that perfect combination of the reps and the analysis coming together, and maybe we could have, achieved something pretty special. But that's all right. I'm learning a lot. I know what it takes. I know what it takes to get to the top. I know how I need to train. I do feel like my gameplay is improving overall. It's just a matter of playing enough games so you know exactly what to do in every matchup. I didn't know what to do against Doffy. I'd barely played it. Played against it maybe like twice. Mihawk, I came up with that strategy. In training, I was able to use it maybe like 2 or 3 times. And then, so when it came to the games on the weekend, 2 or 3 times wasn't enough to hammer it in my head that that was the correct way, if that makes sense. So, if I play against Doffy 20 times, if I practice that game plan against Mihawk 20 times, it's a totally different story because you're confident in what you're doing. And that's just kind of the difference. Just needed to play more. And so going forward, I've got to be smart. I know I'm not going to be able to play every day. I know I'm not going to be able to play as much as some of these, younger guys that are, have more time or, or not even young, just guys that are, playing more. Like, I don't have as much time. And, it's the same with a lot of guys out there that are like me. We don't have as much time to play. So that's where you have to make smart decisions about your decks. Look forward, future plan into your, look ahead of the formats, know what's coming out. It's going to be tough now with Japan and English having a duo release, releasing at the same time. You're not too sure what's going to be meta and what's not going to be meta, but they still release the cards ahead of time. You can still analyze the cards, analyze what's going to be good, and then just make sure that when you come to an event, you want to be, for me, I need to be playing that deck for the past 3 months minimum. 6 months would be amazing. Or not 6 months is a bit too long, but you want to be basically picking a deck that's like, okay, I had whole of last format experience with that deck. Or maybe it is a new deck. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Mihawk just came out, and everyone really performed really well with that. And there is exceptions to the rule, obviously, but it will hold me in good stead if I try and pick a deck that I know that I can carry the skills over into the next format, pull that deck out again, use my experience, and then just tinker the matchups. So, what's next for me? The grind doesn't stop. I'm determined. I'm going to keep playing. Determined to get that elusive top 8. The events don't stop. So you just got to pick yourself up and go again. Yes, I may not be going to Worlds, but I can still go and win a serial Gear 5 Luffy, which could be worth a ridiculous amount of money. There's still always something ahead to look forward to and to train for. And yeah, in about 2 months, less than 2 months, there is a Melbourne Regional in my home state with a Treasure Cup the day after. We just got to keep training for that. The question is, do I play Imu for it? I'm not sure. There is a little bit of meta-analysis that needs to be done. EBO3 is going to be out for this set. That means Nami's going to come into the fray. If I was playing against a yellow deck and then on 5 Don, they can deal a damage to my life, and that means I'm going down to 3, if not maybe 2, and then they're playing. Just say you're playing SD29 Luffy, yellow Luffy. On 5 Don, play Nami, burn you alive. 7 Don, they play Robin, burn you another life. 9 Don, they play Bonnie, burn you to 1. You're not going to be able to play that. I feel like Imu is going to be so vulnerable to all this burn, and the West loves yellow. We absolutely love yellow. I know Luffy's going to be everywhere. Boa's going to be everywhere. We love yellow, and that Nami is just so strong, and mixed with the Robin as well. I think EBO3 is just going to see a real resurgence of yellow. It's going to be everywhere, and I don't want to. I just feel like Imu might be a little bit fragile if you're just getting down to 0 or 1 super early. So maybe it's on Imu. And then there's also that small, tiny part of me that just kind of as much as I want to play meta decks, I also really want to be that guy that tops with a rogue deck. It's just kind of it burns. There's just a passion in me to cook up something and be innovative, or play something that no one else is playing, like it's really a strong feeling, which I've had to kind of really push down because you're hindering yourself a lot of the time if you don't play a meta deck. But we'll see. But yeah, the grind doesn't stop. I'm going to keep uploading videos of training for the event. What decks those are, I'm not sure. We'll try out a few things. And yeah, we're March Regional. It's going to be here before we know it, and I really want to do well. So this is kind of the end of what was like a block of videos. I started this channel with the idea that it was going to help me prepare for nationals, and I think it did. In a lot of ways it did. In a lot of ways it kind of stopped me from training. Sorry, my throat's so dry. And I'm out of water. Too much talking. I need to wrap this up. You know, in some ways it helped me. In some ways it was a hindrance because all the effort that goes into, you know, thumbnails and editing and all the stuff that I've talked about before does eat up a lot of time. And, you know, in the back of your mind, you do get a little bit, get a little bit concerned about, oh, you know, what's my view count like, or what's my subscriber count like, or am I making good content? And, you know, it does become a little bit of a quest to make a good channel instead of just pure training. But it definitely helped a lot, though. I've changed the way I play. I've changed the way I think about the game, engaging my brain so much more. So it's done a lot, and I've got this feeling deep down that if I keep doing what I'm doing, the success will come. But yeah, this is the kind of the end of what I set out to do. So the future is kind of wide open. I might focus on trying to do. I can't film every day. That's one problem that I've realized. I just can't film every day. Eats up too much time. Throws my life out of balance. So I'm thinking maybe I still want to bring a video to you every day. But I'm thinking maybe I do one long session and then kind of cut it up into individual games. So that way you can see, just say I dabble in a little bit of Black Crocodile because I think that's kind of like it would play similar to Imu with the milling and everything, and I'm pretty keen to try that. But just say I upload, Black Crocodile versus Imu, or Croc versus Mihawk, and just kind of cut them up into small individual games. Just that way you can jump on, check out, just watch one game, and then that's done for the day. Just instead of uploading an hour and a half every day, it's not achievable. But yeah, so thank you so much to everyone who was watching. Thank you to everyone who watched the A series. It's really shocked me how many people watched those, and how many people have actually invested over 20 hours watching every single one. And that's just so amazing. It's so cool. And then the Imu one, my gameplay probably wasn't up to a scratch. Hopefully it was good. It was something you could learn. But I was really fresh into that one, and maybe there'd be a lot of Imu players out there that are cringing a bit of some of those videos. But I still think, if you're a new player, I still think there was something to offer there. But yeah, thank you to the Ace viewers, thank you to the Imu viewers, and thank you to all my friends and everyone that I've met in my One Piece journey who have seen me pop up and they're checking out the videos and subscribing, and they're tuning into the ones the breakdowns and the other sort of extra videos that I'm doing. Thank you to everyone. I think that's me done. Talked about everything I want to talk about. I'll hone in on what I want to play for the next 2 months, see what we might want to take to the regionals, and yeah, I will see you guys soon with a video. All right, thanks again, and I'll catch you soon.